Welcome back to Occasional Randomness. I'm your host, Eric Scott, and joining me, as always, my fellow co-host, somebody who loves a good jetpack ride, Jason Johnson.
I think I'm going to need a helmet. And if you get that reference, you're as old as I am. So there you go.
Yeah, and much better special effects, but we'll cover that in a minute when we get there.
Yep. I started watching that movie actually with my youngest pretty recently. He's been on an 80s and 90s movie kick. So it's fresh. So
Yep, the classics.
Yep. Working on his classical education.
Yeah.
We started with Masters of the Universe, if that tells you how it's going. So
I don't think I ever saw that one.
Actually, that's not true. We started with The Princess Bride.
Okay.
And then I slung him into Masters of the Universe. But that'd be a whole other podcast. If you haven't seen that, we really should do that.
Occasional Randomness goes to the movies.
Yep. I almost want to do that one with a live watch so I can hear your reaction.
I mean, I've seen clips and, Dolph Lundgren and all that stuff, but yeah.
Yeah, it's very Dolph Lundgren. It's Dolph Lundgren at its Dolph Lundgrenness.
Better than the Punisher, or not quite as good as the Punisher? Dolph Lundgren.
Oh, I think it was better. It was peak Dolph Lundgren.
Okay. All right. Anyway, if you've been following the podcast along, you've noticed we haven't done one in a little bit because after the post-New Year vacation or pre-New Year vacations, we had post-New Year vacations and other real-life stuff that always gets in the way of doing the fun things.
We got to hang out in live, real person stuff, so that was kind of fun things.
This is true. Yeah, we did. You came up this way to go visit some relatives and stopped along the way and got to have a nice dinner and reconnect in person because it's been 3 years?
3 years,
since last time we saw each other in person.
And we didn't freeze to death in the frozen tundra of the north, so it wasn't too bad.
Skipped most of the snow, so that was good. So while we get back into the swing of things here and plan what we're going to do besides Farscape, this time we'll just do the one continuing Journey Through Farscape episode here. So this time up, it's Season 3, Episode 20, Into the Lion's Den, Part 1, Lambs to the Slaughter. And our usual reminder and public service announcement. If you like what we do here, please give us a like or review wherever you listen to this at. Or better yet, help spread the word and let people know all about us. We'd appreciate it. All right, so this is the even number episodes. I believe that means it's up to you.
Excellent. Well, let's jump into Farscape, Season 3, Episode 20, Into the Lion's Den, Part 1, Lambs to the Slaughter.
Have to get the punctuation in there, so you need that.
And that's all the time. No, that's all the time we have for this week. So we open up inside Crichton's mind in black and white, not color, as he and Harvey are in a World War II truck in full soldier gear. Harvey informs John that if Scorpius finds out that he intends to sabotage wormhole technology, he will kill him. Apparently, Harvey no longer wants to die, but to survive. Aaron snaps Crichton out of it, revealing that they're now in a transport pod. Aaron tells him that Rigel and Dargo have reported in from the command carrier. Grace asks why Jules' hair is red, and she mentions it's because she's anxious. She doesn't know why she came, wishes she and Chiena had skipped out before. So John says to turn the pod around and let her go. However, Aaron says that Moya is over 4 arms away, hiding with Talyn, who's now fully shut down at the rendezvous point.
Yeah, I think at this point you can't pull the I'll turn this car around. Yeah, it doesn't.
I'll pull over right here. No,
you can get out right here in space.
They did that in the first season, right?
At the end, they jumped out of the exploding ship at the end of the season 1, but it's a different reason.
So the group lands on the carrier where Scorpius' crew stands by to greet them. Scorpius welcomes them, and John gets Aaron to test the I-inch bracelet by hurting his thumb. Remember that from last episode? It works, as Scorpius feels the pain too. Dargo tells Aaron that they have been treated fine so far, and Scorpius announces that he is granting John and his companions full diplomatic rights, immunities, and courtesies while aboard the ship. He approaches John and says that at last, the rift between them is finally bridged. Scorpius asks what convinced John to help him, and John says that it's time he did something for the rest of Moya's crew. He tells Scorpius not to screw with them and to give them what they want. Scorpius agrees, and Grace interjects to mention one more thing. They want to bring Talyn aboard for a full cognitive replacement. Scorpius says that wasn't part of the original agreement, and Braca says it's too risky to bring a gunship aboard. Cray says that Talyn's weapons were shut down, and despite Braca's objections, John says it's not for Crace and adds it to his list of demands, so Scorpius agrees. Crace requests project schematics so that he can isolate Talyn's design flaws, and also requests that Lieutenant Laurel join him as Leviathan Specialist, since she is the best qualified. Braca leads him away, and Scorpius invites John to join his friends for refreshments in the officer's lounge. He declines, as he came here to work, prompting Scorpius to ask whether that's for or against him. In the officer's lounge, Peacekeepers are complaining about having to welcome criminals, but everyone is silenced when Chiana, Jewel, Aaron, Rigel, and Dargo enter. As Aaron walks over to get a drink, someone mutters, "Traitor." As Braca leads Crace to his temporary quarters, he says that there's hostility among the crew as they feel he betrayed them by abusing his command, and he feels the same way. As they walk, more mutters of "traitor" are heard. Scorpius and John join Strappa in the experiment room. They've prepared a small, limited workstation for John, which he destroys, saying that he won't eat at the kiddie table. Give him the big toys or send him home. Braca and Crace arrive at the quarters, and Braca tells him not to bother searching for surveillance. He's not that important. Crace said that he predicted Braca's rise in this organization, and he stands by it. He calls Braca a consummate peacekeeper, which seems to anger Braca, so he leaves. Jewel says that it's too weird being here, and says to Aaron that growing up here must have been awful. Aaron, however, has some good memories of growing up on the carrier, and tells Jewel that it wasn't awful. Chiana asks one of the peacekeepers if there's room for another at the table, but he says no. She flirts with him a little, but he's having none of it. And Dargo tells Chiana that it's time to move on, and the peacekeeper calls her a Nabari Tralk, and Dargo a Luxon who took a Sebastian wife and murdered her. Aaron stops Dargo from retaliating, reminding him that that's not why they're here. Braca calls in and calls the peacekeeper Lieutenant Reljic, who says that they were just getting to know each other. Rigel gets the intelligence reports on the Hynerian political situation, and Braca tells Dargo that he can have his surgery any time now, and they're working on the other thing he wanted. Henta, one of Aaron's old friends, approaches her and says that she heard Aaron was here, but didn't believe it. Aaron offers her a drink, but she responds that she only drinks with peacekeepers, and throws it in her face, much to the amusement of the others in the room.
So much for old friends.
Unless that's how peacekeepers usually drink with each other.
Yeah. So like a greeting, like, "Hi, how you doing?"
Yeah. It's a Sagi way to live. Strappa is explaining things to John, and he mentions liquefaction. John says that Linfer explained it, prompting Scorpius to ask what else she said. John says that she died and asks to see some of her equations. When they hesitate, he says to open the bag or call him a cab. He can't do it blind, so they reluctantly agree. Switching back to the crew, Dargo is undergoing surgery to remove the restraint rings from his body. Aaron tells John that it's safe to talk here as the mist in the room interferes with surveillance. John asks how she is. She says she wishes she was elsewhere, but asks if he's decided on a plan. Crichton admits he came aboard with 3 options available to him: erase their data, send the research in the wrong direction, or abandon the plan and run like hell. Unfortunately, Crichton doesn't know how to erase the data, and can't divert the research since he doesn't understand wormhole technology himself. That leaves the idea of making a run for it, although Crichton isn't seriously considering it if he warns her not to get too comfortable. 3 peacekeepers, including Reljic, are drinking in the lounge, where Reljic says he could never stand Luxons, and he has plans to give him a scare. Jewel and Dargo are in the Misty room, where she tells him that she doesn't trust Scorpius, and asks if this will be where they die. One of the peacekeepers enters the room with a metal casing on his arm with a rotating blade at the end. A battle ensues, with both Dargo and Jewel getting involved. Dargo attempts the man to stop from falling off a platform, but the man lets go and falls to his death. Reljic enters the room with troops, telling Dargo and Jewel not to move.
It's a trap.
In his room, Scorpius chews out Reljic, informing him that if any guests are harmed, not only will the assailant be executed, but so will he, and sends him away. John asks if anyone can think of a reason to stay, prompting a hasty apology from Scorpius, with assurances that they won't happen again. Dargo agrees, saying that he's heading back to Moya. Scorpius deems that unacceptable, but John says that the less of them aboard, the less chance of anyone getting to them. Braca suggests that will reduce their incentive to keep promises, causing Dargo to remind Braca of his other promise, and Scorpius orders Braca to hand over the file on Macton Tal, who was Dargo's wife's brother and the killer. Dargo thanks them and leaves. Crace is in his quarters when Lieutenant Laurel comes to join him. He asks if she has a problem working with someone who lost command, and she says no, Scorpius stole his command from him. She adds that even though he left without a word, her feelings for him didn't change, and they kiss. She says that Scorpius knows of their past as she was put in the Aurora chair, and he realizes that, as he suspected, everyone he knew had been coerced into spying on him. They both say they don't hate one another and kiss again. John is introduced to a new theory, to stabilize a wormhole before re-entry. Strappa talks to John about it when Scorpius asks why no progress has been made. He wants to move faster and suggests that perhaps, subconsciously, he's holding back. John suggests that he's cool with the idea that Scorpius only wants wormholes to go after Scarrans, if it's true, which Scorpius says it is, and he can prove it, with excerpts from his personal file before he was a Peacekeeper. John asks Harvey if the Scarrans are the threat that Scorpius claims, and Harvey says that he can speak objectively since he's lacking Scorpius' passion, but he concurs. The Scarrans pose a threat to all races. He says that Scorpius has shown his biography to very few people, and John finds that interesting since he's been lying to his face. Harvey adds that he managed to normalize John's energy signature so that he can't detect John lying. Crace and Lieutenant Laurel go to see Talyn, who's been brought aboard. Crace boards him while Braca asks Laurel if he believed her confession. She seems to think so, since he trusts her fully.
It's a trap.
This whole episode. John and Aaron are on a planetary terrain reconstruction area, say that 3 times fast, where combat training takes place. John asks Aaron if the Scarrans are the real enemy, but Aaron can only say that it's what they were taught. John asks if wormholes are the only way to stop them, but Aaron suggests it's not his problem. He should focus on why he's here. John says his work is taking a while, so maybe she should return to Moya. Rigel's back on Moya with Jewel, Chiana, and Dargo, and is pleased by the intelligence reports. Chiana has a sudden vision of Pilot screaming when Pilot detects Peacekeepers approaching. They attempt to starburst but are shot midway through, and Pilot screams in agony.
It's a trap.
Crace and Laurel are on Talyn, where she asks what it was like to receive a neural interface. She asks why he would give it up, but Crace says Talyn would not take orders. She says that neither would he, to which he replies that's why he is no longer a captain. She asks if he regrets leaving the Peacekeepers, and he says sometimes. But what he regrets most is not trying to take her. She answers that she wouldn't have gone, not then. Aaron goes to see Hinta and tell her that she was forced to leave by Crace. Hinta reminds her that Aaron could have come back when Crace went renegade, but Aaron says it was too late then. She didn't want to come back, to which her friend calls her a traitor. But Aaron retorts with deserter. Before Aaron can say more, an alert comes in regarding a captured Leviathan. Strappa tells John about Linfer, and John says he liked her. He finds something wrong with the equations, but before he can do anything, Aaron comes in telling John that they've captured Moya. Relgic asks what's going on and starts to recite Scorpius' orders when a female interrupts him, flatters him a little, and asks that he look over the prisoners for her. Meanwhile, John and Aaron are met by Peacekeepers, but knock them out and take their guns. Scorpius asks the woman what she's done, mentioning that Gramic Project is under his authority. She reminds him that his authority is not absolute and introduces Cor Tosco, the special Luxon ambassador. He tells Scorpius that the Luxons signed a defense agreement with the Peacekeepers, and he was sent to promote other such agreements. The trouble is, half the planets he visits fear the Peacekeepers, and the woman says that the other half laugh at them for their inability to capture a handful of escaped prisoners whose exploits are becoming legendary. They care about their opinions because they are uniting as much of the uncharted territories as possible to improve their bargaining position with the Scarrans. Scorpius can't believe that they are willing to negotiate, to which she says a truce is being explored. Scorpius says that may be construed as a sign of weakness, but the Luxons suggest that it's what alliances are for, angering Scorpius. Meanwhile, John and Aaron are met by Braca, who stops them and tells them that Scorpius didn't capture Moya. The woman says now is not the time to provoke the Scarrans, and this project imperils a truce. Scorpius says that he knows the Scarrans, and the idea is suicide. John storms in, sticking his gun in Scorpius' face, telling him to let them go or they will kill him. Scorpius says that Moya and his friends are unharmed, and the woman interjects, saying they cannot see them as she has taken them into custody. John asks who she is, and she introduces herself as Commandant Grayza, and says that he must be Crichton. John says that when his friends are threatened, he's infamous for making stupid moves. She agrees, but can't accept Scorpius' deal and tells Scorpius he's lost control. Scorpius calms the ship, telling his crew to release Moya and her crew at once, He then tells Braca to have security take Grayza to her vessel and escort them out of this sector. She says they'll do it his way, but she'll return with a full council sanction. He shouldn't have made her an enemy, and John shouldn't have pointed a weapon at her. Grayza leaves, telling Reljic to release the prisoner. He asks if she's sure, prompting her to grab him and say he was ordered, as she stuffed something down into his collar. John calms Pilot and reassures him that it will not happen again, and he will hold Scorpius to his word. Scorpius explains to John that this is the stupidity he has to deal with, and says John mustn't fail. Reljic's device bleeps. It's a comm from Grayza, who says that she intends to remove Scorpius from command. Reljic suggests that few people will argue with that, and she says that given the crew's low opinion of Scorpius and the time it takes to go through channels, she's concerned about Scorpius' safety. Reljic says that Scorpius is well protected, but his bracelet makes him vulnerable. She says that she is then equally concerned for John's safety, and Reljic says he'll do his best.
Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Say no more. Rigel and Jewel are gambling with the Peacekeepers as Aaron tries to reason with Hinta, saying that she kept some ideals from the Peacekeepers, but to no avail. Dargo tells Scorpius that he can't believe the Luxons made a pact with the Peacekeepers. Scorpius says that they remain autonomous, but Dargo asks for how long. John tells Aaron in the Misty Room that his knowledge is becoming clearer, and he should now steer Scorpius in the wrong direction, but he's not 100% sure if it's the right thing to do. Aaron says that the other John gave his life to stop the Scarrans from getting his information. But John says that it's his shift now. The other didn't get Scorpius' backstory or know what they know. John says that his next move isn't clear. Aaron tells him to get clear soon because he needs to make a decision. Meanwhile, Lieutenant Laurel tells Crais that he could come back to the Peacekeepers by giving Scorpius what he wants from John. John and Aaron are walking through a corridor when Aaron realizes that they're being followed. She leads John into the generator room, but the Peacekeepers enter and a fight ensues. Scorpius is feeling John's pain and alerts Braca of the assault. One Peacekeeper is killed by a reversed pulse blast, while John uses a jetpack to propel another into a generator, vaporizing him. John flies up with the jetpack but is pursued by Reljic. Eventually, John manages to send him into a generator, however he is left hanging from it, putting him in danger of being vaporized. Aaron is met on the ground by Braca's men, who shut the generator down, with seconds to spare. John goes to Scorpius with a pulse pistol just in case, and Scorpius tells him that time is running out. Grayza will return soon, and he must realize the situation was changed by her arrival. Their time is short. John says that he can't go faster, but Scorpius believes he's stalling. He had hoped John would see reason. John said that he's here wearing the bracelet. What more does he want? Scorpius brings up an image of Earth, saying that he wants cooperation. John, assuming the image was lifted from his memory, pulls the gun on Scorpius, but Scorpius stabs his own hand and John drops the gun. Scorpius hits John and tells him that the image is not a memory, but an actual recording of Earth. Scorpius remarks it took quite some effort to locate his planet and get visual confirmation. Even without wormholes, Earth is within reach. At top speed, it'd take just over 60 cycles. Scorpius says that either John gives him what he wants or he swears that he will keep John alive long enough so that he can witness his homeworld's destruction. To be continued.
Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun. A little trivia about this episode. Rebecca Riggs makes her first appearance as Commandant Grayza. Riggs was a big fan of science fiction growing up and loved Blake 7.
And I'll agree to that. I love Blake 7 also. Great British sci-fi TV show. Or
It's another one I
was, I guess, because it's been over since like 80s.
I've never seen it. Should put that one on the list. Dave Elsey's original concept for Grayza would have had her costumed more like Judi Dench's portrayal of Queen Elizabeth I in Shakespeare in Love. When Riggs was cast, the sleeker look was adopted instead. Also, the scene in which Moya's crew walks through the assembled soldiers on the command carrier's flight deck was a deliberate recreation by Ian Watson of the awards scene at the end of Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope. Or just Star Wars.
You're right.
The scenes inside the ship's park were filmed at Sydney's Centennial Park. A strong morning mist gave rise to Claudia Back commenting about the surreal atmosphere. And Hinta's demotion is a direct result of Aaron Soon's contamination in Premiere. So, what'd you think of this first episode of the multi-parter?
Well, I think we're on record pretty much every time there's a multi-parter that we comment that Farscape does multi-part episodes extremely well. And that continues with this one so far. So they're batting 1,000. This one's definitely a very good, very meaty episode. Uh, I loved almost every part of it, and we'll get into the one little thing I didn't like here in it later. And as always with most first parts of a multi-parter, everything's completely set up in this episode for the ending next time, assuming it's 2 parts, not 3, which I think is 2. And it's packed, jam-packed full of stuff. We get more backstory on Crace and Aaron's defections, like how that impacted themselves, plus the people that they grew up with and worked with on this command carrier. I guess it's the same carrier that they both were on before that Scorpius took over. We get lots more information on what's going on in the larger universe outside the uncharted territories with the Peacekeepers, making alliances with other races like Luxons. It's the only one commented on, but it sounds like there's others. Maybe the Hynerians, I don't know. Maybe a truce with the Scarrans, which is not on Scorpius' agenda by any means. So now we get some conflict with that. So all in all, yeah, I mean, I loved it. It's a great setup for hopefully a exciting conclusion next time. How about you? What do you think?
Yeah, I completely agree. I wasn't sure to what to expect going in, other than again, the track record of multi-parters seems would hopefully hold up. I think they're doing a really good job of elevating the big bads, and we'll kind of get into new characters as we go. But it's interesting to not get somebody who gives Scorpius some competition, and it almost makes him an ally, right? Kind of like Crace became an ally from being the big bad of the first season or so. So that was interesting. But of course, jumping to the end, Scorpius threatened Earth right at the end, so maybe not much of an ally. It's toss up.
Yeah, he was a really not as Scorpius for most of this episode. He's like, is this the same person that we're used to dealing with? And yeah, at the end, okay, fine. Yep, there he is.
Yeah, yeah. Like I said, I was starting to kind of be like, yeah, okay, maybe he's gonna play nice and enemy of my enemy and all that kind of stuff. And it's like, no, here I'm gonna threaten your planet now.
Yeah, everything's all kumbaya and peace and love until you don't get what you want, and then it's like, okay, let's try it my way now.
Right. I also didn't think I realized that we were in the same carrier. Yeah. So maybe uh, that's kind of an interesting sentimental piece of it, right? So
Yeah, I guess it makes sense, right? I mean, I don't know how many command carriers there are. Sounds like there's more than one. But yeah, I mean, Scorpius came over to deal with Crace, and then Crace left. So yeah, I guess he just assumed the role there, and off we go. All right, so yeah, let's jump into some of this. So yeah, so right off the bat, we open in John's head, which it's been a while, and there's old buddy Harvey. We haven't seen that much lately, and I guess he's on John's side, or at least the side of not dying, because he's the only one left. No more Scorpio 2 and John 2. This is it. And I guess, which I forgot that he had this ability. He even helps out John later, saying that he's hiding the fact that John's lying to Scorpius. Since I forgot that Scorpius, I think the one episode where we learn all about his backstory, he mentions that he can tell when people are lying by, I guess, their energy signatures or something like that. So nice little callback to stuff that you might have forgotten about that he can do.
yeah, I'd forgotten that myself. But yeah, good old Harvey. It's nice to see he can join the right team here, and it seems like he now wants to survive, as he stated. So yeah, maybe he'll become a permanent like hangout. Maybe this John won't get rid of him, right? Like other John.
Yeah, it's like, I'm your buddy, I'm your friend, trust me. It's like, okay, well, yeah, that can go a different way too, but we'll see. And yeah, like the trivia mentioned, I did love the scene where they're walking, they come on the command carrier and they're walking past ranks and ranks of peacekeepers in different uniforms and whatever. And apparently, from doing some Wikipedia searching, I guess the command carrier or a command carrier can have up to 50,000 people on it. So I guess, we were talking before about where's the budget for the rest of the season. I think here's where it all went for costuming and lots of extras and grabbing the crew to fill out the scene and the officers' lounge later when there's like 10 people in there too.
You mean they didn't just have like 10 people and CGI duplicate them over and over and over again like they do now? Just cut and paste, cut and paste.
As we'll discuss here shortly, that was probably not an effects option back then. So, do it the old-fashioned way, or strategic. Or maybe they had like a couple dozen, and they just kind of strategically move them around a bit.
Yeah, as the camera pans, everybody just kind of runs behind the curtain and comes out on the other side.
Yeah. And speaking of 50,000 people, as you might expect, not everybody's in line with Scorpius giving these escaped criminals blanket diplomatic immunity since they've been hunting them for what, at least 3 cycles or so, which we think is about how long John's been around here. Kind of, nice, believable scenes with them, in hallways or in the officers' lounge looking angrily or disgustingly at them, or, calling them traitors to their face or muttering that they're not so happy and not so nice seeing them here. So that was fun. And especially, yeah, with Aaron and Crace, it makes it even worse because, as we said before, they were on this command carrier before and grew up on it, or at least Aaron did. I don't know if Crace did, but it sounds like Aaron grew up on it as a child. That's where she was born probably. So, she probably knows a ton of people on here and not so much friendly people anymore.
Yeah, I mean, now knowing now that this is the same carrier, like you say, it makes it more personal, right? Because it's the people they knew and grew up with. So you get, not only do you get the economy of characters by, oh, it's the same ones, we get to use the same people, but also the impact becomes more because of the way it impacts the characters.
Yeah, not the happy homecoming that, which I'm sure they didn't expect it to be, but yeah. And then we find out what at least some of the crew are getting in exchange for John helping Scorpy. Rigel gets a bunch of intelligence reports on the Hynerian political situation. I'm only guessing because if this does pan out and he gets his freedom and gets to go back home, that he wants to become Dominar again. And why wouldn't you be, right? And then something that you've always seen, I guess, for the last 3 years, which you always wondered about, Dargo gets those rings that are on his upper chest removed. I guess that were used to help secure him in his cell as a prisoner, which Maeve saw a couple times over the 3 years. And apparently he's got some more info on the whereabouts of the Luxon that killed his wife. Bonus for him. And I guess as a unexpected side benefit, Crace gets something under lots of protest. I guess this answers our question from last episode of how they're going to fix Talyn or where they're going to fix Talyn. And apparently right here. So he gets Talyn to be brought on board to install his new personality. And of course, has a side benefit of having one of his old lovers as an assistant, which, okay, I guess we'll see how that goes. But yeah, so at least that answers one of our questions from last time.
Which definitely surprised me because I was really expecting, especially like when they kind of set it up, the episode started with them, hiding Moya and Talyn. I was expecting that to be like, keeping them in reserve, but also, Talon's their big gun, literally. So, having him out there as a threat, to be the cavalry if they need them was a great thing to have in the back pocket, right? But right off the bat, they reveal that not only do you know where they are, but that he's not in commission, right? He's shut down, and they bring him on board. So it takes that piece off the board for them to be able to use his backup and his leverage. And then they, later in the story, they actually send people back to Moya, therefore allowing them to track him and know where Moya is. So it really, the Moya and pilot and Moya and Talyn in reserve just kind of went off the table really quick. I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, so now they're at the mercy of the Peacekeepers fully. They have no escape route.
Yeah, that transport pod's not going to be great for the rest of the seasons. So
Yeah, probably not too long range. Yeah.
no starburst, just
Although if you ever watch the British sci-fi comedy show Red Dwarf, they spend lots of seasons inside like a little transport pod or a bug that they call it. So I guess you can live in it for a while, but I don't think these pods have that much long range. So
as many interpersonal issues as this crew has, could you imagine an entire season inside of one transport pod?
right. Also, I guess we got Dargo's little attack ship as maybe as a side thing, so that might give him something. But I guess a command carrier of 50,000 people, no, not really.
Yeah.
And speaking of gigantic command carrier, we get to explore a lot more of it this time since they're stuck on it. We get lots of scenes in lots of different places. We have like an officer's lounge. I guess probably one of many, like a healing or like a recovery room, and even the place. Not quite their version of a holodeck necessarily, but it's a place with like natural scenery, like trees, grass, like actual. I guess there was water. I think maybe I can't remember. But yeah, I guess when your ship's almost a mile long, there's room for everything.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the use of space in this episode, right? So a lot of times you can kind of tell that they're jumping from one stage to another stage, or they're constrained on the amount of space they have. And I felt like they did a really good job of not having that feel with the command carrier. It really felt like they had this expansive environment to play with. Here's a park, here's a generator room, here's a couple of different lounges and healing rooms, like you mentioned, it all these different things. It really felt more expansive than we usually get, where it's just like, hey, here's one bridge room, here's a personal room, here's the med bay and pilot's room, and that's all you get, right? So it was a really expansive ship, and they made it feel that way.
Yeah, I guess they also kind of not overtly like hammer home the fact that they're stuck here on this gigantic ship with lots of people, and there's like what, six of them, seven of them against 50,000. so,
Yeah.
so John's planning better work because they ain't getting out if it doesn't work.
No, especially as you find out that Scorpio's not on the best of terms with the crew, right? He's not a popular leader, so they're depending a lot on his protection.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. They like Crace got consumed or not sidetracked, but like Crace got consumed with hunting down Crichton, and then paid for it and got replaced with Scorpius, and now Scorpius is obsessed with wormhole technology and I guess finding John and them too. Same thing. So it's like, oh, we're doing this again. So it's like
That's
it's
true.
going down a pattern here of you're a little focused too much on this one thing. And let's see, then we get a bunch of different scenes with the not so happy peacekeepers finally having enough of these guys and going against Scorpius's orders and trying to harm or maybe kill our crew, our heroes. So, the first one, okay, I got the Peacekeeper with the arm harness with a buzz saw. Okay, cute, not practical, but hey, it's cool. It's a buzz saw on an arm. Hey, what's not to like, right? So the plan, I don't know what the plan was. I guess it seems like Relgic probably figured it wasn't going to work, but may just wanted like to frame them for killing some, like he's the one Peacekeeper, or to somehow be able to get their diplomatic immunity revoked, or at least put them in cells for a while, or something like that. I don't know, but
Yeah,
it was a fun little fight scene.
and maybe by killing a peacekeeper, which he probably assumed would happen against the Luxon, right, would get the crew in more trouble, or further create a rift between the our crew and the crew of the ship, right? I mean, they're already having the name calling and everything mentioned, and maybe he can just get the whole thing escalated if he can, if they start killing peacekeepers. Um, I also kind of pictured that buzzsaw guy as Macho Man Randy Savage. I think that's who they should have stunt cast in that role, because I feel like that's who was missing in that. Oh yeah, and just kind of jump out with the buzzsaw. So
Maybe like that hat and the sunglasses too, the
yeah,
oversized
yeah,
sunglasses. Yeah,
exactly. He had the beard kind of going, so
yeah, he's a rough little dude there, but yeah, it didn't work out so well
yeah.
for him.
He didn't cut it.
Yeah, although to Dargo's credit, he tried to save him, but oh well.
Yeah, we seem to have a problem with people falling off of things with this crew. Ledges are bad.
Yeah, I guess this is like another homage to the Empire from Star Wars. It's like you just have these giant things with no guardrails, like that overlook a nice drop. I don't know, but
Well, I was thinking back to Aaron's mother too, and her falling off the building. Right? I mean, it's just we seem to drop people off ledges is what we do. So
yeah, apparently there's no like occupational safety departments on any of these ships or anything like that. So no accidents since 0 days. Like on.
they never even touch the sign. They just
Yeah,
leave it. It's actually like painted zero. Like it's not even a flipper.
yeah.
It's
It's
just
it's, it's not even LED, or it's just spray painted. Yeah. And then I guess we get our big fight scene set piece, whatever you want to call it, which I do. As I said, this is the only thing I have a problem with the whole episode. So we'll just get it out of the way now. Here is that fight in the generator room. If they just stuck with them moving around through the blocks of generators and fighting each other and getting vaporized by the generators, that'd been great. I mean, they're doing great. They even had that really cool scene when the one peacekeeper shoots the pulse gun, and the guy's like, "No, don't do that!" And the bolt gets like halfway to John, stops, and I guess flies back and hits her and blows her up. Like that was great. Okay, that's cool. Everything's wonderful until John and Reljic pick up some jetpacks and quote unquote fly around the room trying to fight each other. So I'm guessing that's the point where either the budget ran out or it was just too much of a scene to try to pull off with the technology or budget that they had at the time.
yeah. I was gonna chalk it up to the limited technology at the time, but then I decided maybe they just watched The Rocketeer and were inspired. But yeah, either way, I see your point. I did feel I was less distracted by the jetpacks and the had issues with that as I did that I felt like it was rushed, right? Like we were running out of runtime. It wasn't so much they ran out of budget. It's like we ran out of time to deal with a scene, and so we just need some way to quickly fly to the end. and wrap up the combat, right? So if they'd stayed on the ground and had a longer engagement, it probably would have had more of a feel to it than we just kind of boom. Oh, no, so much for this guy. He's like done, right? We got rid of Reljic in like a few minutes.
Yeah, 'cause you had all the other good elements. You had the guns that they can't use, and of course there's just like metal pipes lying around. They just pick up to hit each other with, because that's how you. If it's just pipes lying around the floor all the time, but yeah, everything's great up until that point. And then with all this other fun going on the command carrier, we have our intro to Commandant Grayza, which, spoilers for a 20-some-year-old show. I didn't remember where she came into the series at. I do remember her a lot from season 4, where she's a main player. So, spoilers for you and anybody else that hasn't seen past season 3.
Oh well.
At least she's coming back next time, for sure, because she's hinted that she's coming back. But yeah, apparently she's more tied into Peacekeeper Command than Scorpius is, since she's probably been off doing that all this time while he's been off consumed with John and wormhole stuff. I guess she might be working on the treaty with the Scarrans, getting other races, involved, allies, and all that kind of stuff, which Scorpius wants no part of whatsoever, and even cheeses her off by going against her orders and releasing Moya and the prisoners again. So that's going to set up a nice power struggle, apparently, with him and Grayza. And as John does when he gets, I guess, flustered or whatever, he does stupid things, he said. And he managed to piss her off, so I guess watch out, John, too.
So I'm guessing this is going to lead to Scorpio getting kicked out of Peacekeeper. It's also kind of like we've had with Crace and Aaron. So now we're going to have 3 ex Peacekeepers on the crew. He'll just get a bunk and hang out with Harvey. I guess I don't know. Guess we'll find out in future eps.
Yeah, I'm sure the crew would love to have another guest on Moya.
Maybe he'll stick to Talyn. I don't know. I get confused on the number of rooms on Talyn, so maybe there's room there.
Yeah, it's a lot less rooms because he's smaller, but yeah. Keep him over there, all the Talons, pop-up guns and stuff, can watch him all the time.
Assuming he still has them.
Yeah, they just disabled the main gun, right? But I guess they turned the ones off inside because otherwise they'd have gotten shot last time. So.
Well, they specifically said that the goal of having him on board was to remove all weaponry.
Yeah, good point.
So at some point during this episode, or maybe not during this episode, but theoretically during the process, he will become completely unarmed. So
yeah, just back to a regular Leviathan.
But minus a pilot.
Yeah. And I guess so much for for him anyway. No one's really looking into doing more research into making Leviathan gunships. Now they're, I guess, focused on wormhole weapons, right? So that experiment has gone its route, I guess.
So maybe they'll come up with a wormhole gun, kind of like the portal gun, and they'll put that on a Leviathan.
Yeah, there we go. Portal 3. No, wait. And we kind of get our main plot line that's interspersed throughout this episode. We got Scorpius, John, and our surviving wormhole scientist, Straka, having the little scenes together. And this is actually kind of interesting as it evolves through the episode, because John's getting more and more conflicted with what he wanted to do. Will he actually sabotage or divert the research, or is he going to actually help? And as it goes further and further on in the episode, that seems to be where John's headed. Like, he's buying into the Scarrans being this big threat, which everyone says it is. So if everyone says it, must be true. Plus, he's seen Scarrans before, and has not had a good encounter with them ever.
Except for that one that was, a good scare until we blew it up.
Yeah, except for the good Scarran, the nice happy Scarran that can be all part of the crew, and he's, oh, let me go over here for a little while. Oh, he blew up. Now there's like this big alliance of other races and peacekeepers, maybe trying to at least look bigger and tougher, so the Scarrans will back down that way. So that then there won't be any need for wormhole weapons. So up until obviously Scorpius threatening John, you're like, what's John going to do? Is he going to willingly help or not? And of course, now that Scorpius became the person we all know and love at the end of the episode and is threatening to destroy Earth, now what's that going to do to John's decision making next time?
That's why the Earth thing surprised me somewhat, because I was expecting John to get ready to legitimately work with the Peacekeepers, and I figured that was where it was going to kind of end, was him actually making that decision to be helpful, especially with the other lady, and just everything kind of culminating throughout this episode. And then Scorpio, maybe even resulting in, like I mentioned earlier, Scorpio losing his command and having to cast his lot with the crew and all that kind of stuff. And then he turns around and flips over and threatens Earth, and it's like, yeah, okay, you're not coming back from that. That's probably the one bridge you couldn't have burned, right? So
Yeah, I mean, it might have been a better thematically way to do it. Yeah, having John be more conflicted and like actually wanting to help him, but then that's not a big cliffhanger ending. So, you have to kind of throw this little cliffhanger in of like, okay, now we're gonna like, look, I can see Earth and I'm gonna blow it up. So okay, you have to escalate the tension for the cliffhanger.
unless you cliff hung it on him unlocking the wormhole tech, and boom, now we've got wormholes. But yeah,
Yeah, which we'll find out if that what's happened next time or not. We don't know.
no. It is also interesting that this is not the multi-parter that cliffhangs the season, right? We're still in season 3 as we turn the page. So that's the other interesting part of this multi-parter, is that we didn't have to cliffhang the entire season on it.
Yeah, I mean, if next one is the end of this, and it's a two-parter, not a three multi-parter, like a three-parter, then yeah, after this next one, there's one more. So is that like the repercussions of what happens next time,
Well, but
or
either
or,
way,
or does it set
we've
up something else, and then that becomes a two-parter-ish into the season four?
right. Either way, we've not had a four-parter before, right? So theoretically, we could have all 3 parts and still not, unless the third one's a cliffhanger, which that's really confusing. So
Yeah.
how many cliffhangers can we have?
Well, at least two more, but yeah, probably just one, or actually this
Yeah,
one, and that's it. So we'll see. I'm sure they have to have something to leave you with end of the season with, because that's how things were done back then. They want to get you that little hook to come back for the next season.
true. So I guess we could have at least a couple more cliffhangers in our future,
Yeah.
or building edge, no railing hangers, since there's no guardrails on anything.
Totally open, narrow walkways into oblivion. Yeah, you have to wonder, like, is that like an architect's dream of like, let's just build, this is what I want to do. Let's just build a giant thing that is like thousands of feet off the ground and have no supporting whatsoever.
It's their way of protesting OSHA in media by, you know, going extreme the other direction with no OSHA. I don't know. That was just off the fly.
Yeah, because it certainly doesn't violate any kind of actor, rules or unions or construction unions, that kind of thing. So yeah. All right, so that was a big meaty episode. Anything else we didn't talk about? I think we talked about most of it, but anything else that you might want to mention?
No, I mean, I think obviously we like multi-parters. This was another good one, and we've got a lot of questions, so it did its job, right?
Yep, they set up quite a lot of stuff, so now we can see if they can bring it home. So speaking of which, next time we will definitely be covering Farscape Season 3, Episode 21, Into the Lion's Den Part 2, Wolf in Sheep's Clothing. So if you've been following along, we try to do our best guess as to what that means to prove us right or wrong next time, which we never go back and check, so it doesn't really matter. But act like we do.
Shh,
Stick with us.
shh. Don't give away the secrets.
So I mean that's a famous saying, which or phrase, which usually means like somebody who's dangerous and out to get you is masquerading as one of you or as a friend. So we already know Lieutenant Laurel is not really on Crace's side.
So you're saying it's a trap?
It's a trap. Yeah. Crichton is not necessarily on Scorpius's side, or at least maybe not after the last bit of the episode. He's not anymore, but we'll see. We have Aaron's friend Henta. So are they getting back together? Are they not? Is Henta going to get some kind of revenge? Who knows? So there's lots of potential double crossing happening or could happen. And if you want to throw out there, is Harvey really on John's side now that he's back there with the real Scorpius? Is this his chance to, I don't know, impress his real self, so to speak? I don't know. So there's all kinds of ways you can go with this, with what they set up, and I can't wait to see what they do with it. So it should be an exciting, hopefully, conclusion to this episode, or this storyline.
Yeah, it'll be an interesting ride for sure. I guess if I had to cast my vote, I'm going to go with the con being Scorpio versus Grayza, right? Because he could be playing her, and the crew not really be as against him as they were led to believe, so that he can surprise her where she thinks it. I don't know. I never trust Scorpius, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah, he's got usually like plans within plans. So did he already foresee him being kicked out of Captain Hood here, and he's got something in his back pocket, so to speak, or did this one guy catch him off guard and he was totally surprised? We'll see.
Yeah, we'll find out.
Yeah, so that is your homework, and if we do something else, then you'll see it in the show notes and the title of the episode. If we decide to cover something else, like we keep threatening to watch Echo, the new Disney Plus show, so I'm sure we'll probably watch that one or two of them by next time. So, but check the show notes, see what's going on, and that's what we're doing. And with that, we'll see you next time. Goodbye.
Goodbye.